Hi, I'm Viv, the life strategist, helping busy-driven people go from chaos and confused to clear and less confused, right? But I'm not only that, okay? So, for those of you who know me and who followed me, you know that I also worked for over 10 years as a trauma therapist using self-EMDR using EMDR therapy. And I developed the self-EMDR course, which I now run in my self-healing circle and guidance group. But my point is that, so for over a decade, I worked with people one-on-one, hundreds of people, diving deep into their history, their traumas, their souls, and the things that no human should have to experience, and helping them heal and break through those patterns, right? So I thought, why not on Saturdays devote a day to share a little of the healing wisdom and tips to help others heal too. So I'm gonna call this Self-Healing Saturdays, okay? And I'm gonna go live on Saturdays just to sort of share some of the best self-healing tips and trainings that I'm also posting in my private community. So, without further ado, today's topic is about stopping emotional looping. Stop your emotional looping, right? Now, this is actually not trivial if you are someone who is in need of healing, like the people in my darling community, my self-EMDR community, because I also do run a Thrive Force community for purpose-driven productivity, clarity, and fulfillment. However, if you have been through quite a lot in life, you might be running some patterns. And even if you haven't had significant, atrocious childhood trauma, you might still be running some unbeneficial emotional patterns. In fact, we all have them. This is why this topic is relevant to a lot of us. So what are these emotional patterns, and why are they created, and how are they created, and how do they ruin our lives? So it can happen in several ways, but basically, typically the patterns that we run that drive us crazy and that keep us stuck or unfulfilled or unhappy or doing things we actually don't want to be doing, or stopping us from doing things we actually want to be doing, were things that were typically set up in childhood. And usually it was a defense mechanism. You know, it was the way that your child mind unconsciously kind of tried to make sense of things to try to help you to get the result that you need, to meet your needs, okay? And we all have emotional needs that we're going to talk about today. So, as I did with many, many clients, and as I do in my healing community with self-EMDR, we can use EMDR and self-EMDR to break through those emotional patterns, those loops and stuff, right? But let's say you're not in the community. Let's say you don't want to do EMDR, right? Let's say you don't even need to do EMDR. What can you do? Because you still may be suffering from emotional loops and patterns. And even if you are in the community, you can also use this too. So the first thing is to notice that you're doing this, that this is happening, because these are unconscious, right? So it's really just, and it helps us sometimes keep a diary, you know, and just kind of like write down what's happening. Like when you're upset, you know, write down, okay, what triggered it? What was the feeling? What was the emotion? What was the thoughts? You know, and maybe you're in the state of blaming someone or something, like it's my boss, or it's my husband, or my wife, or whatever, and it's really them or my child. They're just constantly doing this and it's triggering my buttons. But what is the pattern inside you, right? that's actually running. So what do I mean by that? Like, is it that so-and-so or something disappoints you, doesn't meet your expectation, and then you feel angry, or you feel hurt, or you feel like powerless, like you can't get through, or that you try something and you feel like you failed because XYZ, so then your behavior is ABC, right? So write down, right, what it is, the pattern, and you don't have to be perfect at this, but just kind of have an awareness of that. Now, if you are doing EMDR, or self EMDR rather, then you can kind of use that as a point of entry for your work. And if you're in the community, you know what I'm talking about. But if you're not, that's okay. What I want you to do regardless is think about how this pattern satisfies any one or more of the following 6 human needs. Okay, so we all have the need to feel, the first need is certainty, safety, right? Certainty, safety, security. That's the first human need. We all need to feel safe, secure, certain that things are going to be safe, right? A certain way, right? We all have this need. So kind of write that down. If you're in the community, there'll be a worksheet that you can use. So if this is confusing, just look at the worksheet. If you're not in the community, you can DM me, and I'm happy to share this with anyone. I know December is a very difficult month, and that's why I'm here, trying to do a little part to help if I can. So certainty is the first. Certainty / safety, security, right? The second human need is uncertainty, variety. Because in fact, if everything is certain and safe and like, sure, we crave that, we need that, but let's say we get there and it's all predictable and the same, then what do we need? We need variety, right? We need variety. And that is the spice of life, and that brings us joy, and it's fun. That's fun. Variety is often fun. So write that down. And then the third human need, can you guess? These are not necessarily in order, by the way, but for most people they are. Significance. We all need to feel important, right? We need to feel like we matter, like we have value. And this is not just the conceited ones. Me. No. Absolutely not. That's total bull. We all need to feel valuable and important to somebody. That's just the way we're wired. And the fourth, love and connection. We need to feel love. We need to feel connected. And it's very important for us. So those are the 4 basic needs. And then there's 2 more, which are growth and contribution. So those are very important for fulfillment. But so when you are running your pattern, you're definitely not fulfilling all of those 6 needs usually, although you might. But you are definitely fulfilling at least 1, 2, or 3 of those needs. And if this is a pattern that you're running a lot, as tends to be the case, then you're probably filling 2 or 3 of those needs. And if you are, it's in a pattern that's so-called addictive because it's meeting your needs, even if it's negative. So we need to meet these 6 human needs on a regular basis, on a daily basis. At least the first 4. The first 4 we need to meet. The last 2 are the ones for happiness and fulfillment. Okay, but the first 4, the certainty / safety, uncertainty / variety, love and connection, and significance. So we all have to meet those needs on a daily basis. And we can have positive ways of doing that. We can have negative ways of doing that. So, an example, certainty. So paradoxically, getting angry or getting depressed can meet the need for safety and security and certainty, because we feel like okay, certainty, like at least I know I can continue being angry. I know what's going to happen. The shit's going to hit the fan, right? And or getting depressed, like, okay, I'm not going to get a lot of things I want, and I'm going to feel crappy, but we know that, okay, if I totally give up, that kind of guarantees a certain result. So that also paradoxically can give us a feeling of certainty, even if it feels really bad. Anger can also meet the need for significance, right? Like if you are getting really angry and really loud, like people are going to pay attention to you. Maybe it's negative attention, but for a short moment that could make you feel important, even though that sounds horrible. But unconsciously, it is what happens a lot of times. And by the way, I'm not vilifying anyone here. I have been guilty of all of this. Just a little bit, but still, no, I'm kidding. I have been. And we all have been at certain times, if we're honest. And love and connection, right? Like, so even getting angry can meet our need for love and connection, because let's say you're getting angry at your significant other, right? Because they're not paying attention to you. So you're angry, and then they pay attention to you, but it's negative attention. Children do this all the time, by the way, because they would rather have some attention than no attention, even if it's a negative attention. And why? Because it meets that need for connection. So you can even look at these 6 needs in your kids, and how they're met. And so remember, 2 or 3 of these needs, like 2, if they're met, you're going to repeat the pattern. 3, you're like addicted to the pattern. So therefore, it's important to first examine the pattern, right? Like these patterns run unconsciously. So if you can't catch them, there's little that you can do. So start to be aware that you are running patterns especially when you're upset and you're getting a result you don't want. Start thinking, I'm running a pattern. What's the pattern? Write it down. Maybe the first 5 times you write it down, you won't quite see the pattern. You won't really get what the real pattern is. But the more you write it down, the more you'll start to see, like, okay, this is the pattern. You can meditate, go for walks, do things to help clear the mind, whatever, like if you like to shower, have a warm bath, go for a drive, whatever helps you clear the mind. And to start to see this pattern, right? That is key. And then analyze this pattern through the lens of these 6 needs, right? It's probably going to be, if it's a negative pattern, it's probably going to be fulfilling one of the first 4 needs. Is it fulfilling growth and contribution? Maybe. I'll let you decide. It's possible. But like I said, all of these needs can be fulfilled in so-called negative ways and positive ways. And if there are patterns that you don't like, they're not serving you, you're probably fulfilling at least 2 or 3 of these needs in a so-called negative way. So being aware of that is really, really amazing. It's amazing, because irrespective of whether you do self-EMDR or not, like self-EMDR helps you get down to the deep root if you're truly stuck and suffering, and help to surface that pattern and see it and rewire things and let go of, like, if you really need to let go of a lot of emotion and hurt and upset and pain, then that's a really good thing. But if that's not the case, or even if it is the case, still doing this exercise is really helpful, because what you can do is, okay, which by this pattern, which of the needs am I meeting? How am I meeting them? What am I doing? Like, okay, when this happens, I get angry, and that meets my need for significance, maybe certainty, maybe variety, because I don't know what the other person's going to do. Spice of life. You may not think of it that way, and you may be thinking, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous, Viv. What are you talking about? You're ridiculous. But just give it a chance. Start to think about, how could this be meeting the need for connection, even if it's a crappy way of meeting it. Because why is this important? Because then you can actually choose to do things to meet those needs in better ways. thereby helping to break the pattern. Now, simple awareness helps you break the pattern. You can just be like, I'm going this pattern. I'm not gonna do the thing that I normally do, and I'm gonna go do something else. I'm gonna resource myself. I'm a resourceful person. I know how to find resources. There's tons of stuff on the internet. I can resource myself, right? However, if you're cutting off meeting those needs, they have a sneaky way of getting in. And if you've conditioned yourself to only meet those needs in one way, right, then you're going to have a hell of a time trying to break this addiction, this addictive pattern. So that's why I said write it down and then think about how can I meet these needs in a positive way, in a productive way, in a way that makes me feel good. So for significance, right? If it's significance, what can you do to make yourself feel important? I know it sounds silly sometimes, but it sometimes is as simple as maybe recognizing that you are important. If you look at the people that love you, maybe sometimes it's too covert, or maybe you don't feel important and maybe you can't realize that. And maybe there's a different way to get significance, right? Like contributing, volunteering, doing something for somebody, right? Taking care of an animal, a pet. If you have a pet, you are significant. I promise you. Unless it's a cat. No, I'm kidding. But okay, I'm going to confess. I'm a dog person. If you're a cat person, you may choose not to follow me anymore. But my son is a cat person, so I love and respect cat people too. I don't know that much about cats, okay? But I know that if you have a dog, your dog worships you. Unless he's weird. He or she is weird. I have come across weird dogs. Sorry, Daddy. Your dogs have been weird. But in general, dogs, your pets, if you take care of them, or even if you don't take care of them, they worship you, right? And you are significant in their minds. So there are ways to find significance. Sometimes it's just easy. It's as simple as a mindset shift and seeing that. And otherwise, there's things that you can do for certainty, for safety, right? There are things that you can do, right? You can take control of your life. You can start to build a routine, have a schedule. If you already have that, think about what else can give you certainty. Maybe it's financial security you're seeking. What steps can you do towards that, right? But even if what the final goal that you want seems so far off, just think of like a baby step that you can do, a small thing that is attainable. Even if it's just like, I'm going to wake up at the same time every day. I'm going to set my alarm clock. I'm going to set a bedtime alarm. That can give you a sense of certainty. And love and connection, right? If you think, oh, I have no one to connect to, well, you probably do. You can also get a pet, but you can also connect with yourself and love yourself. This is a prime opportunity to exercise this need, because guess what? We only actually feel love when we give love. And you can always give love to yourself. Now, if you are in my healing circle, you might be in a place where this is accessible and this is easy, or you might be in a place where this is really difficult. I have gone through times in my life when it was difficult. Luckily, even though I've gone through very difficult times that seemed to stretch forever, I was fortunate to be connected to the right mentors at the right time to lead me out of those places relatively quickly in terms of loving myself, right? And that is a huge turning point. And it's also not something that's 100% stable, right? Like, we can dip, you can be like giving yourself that love, and then something happens and you're like, oh man, why the hell did I do that? And then not giving yourself that love, right? So that's okay. It's a journey, right? But that also connecting to your purpose. And maybe you might feel lost and you're like, oh man, I don't know I don't know how I'm going to connect to that. Well, then you should DM me and I'll get you the From Chaos to Clarity pre-New Year reset workbook. Okay, that'll help you get some clarity. And as you get clarity, as you connect with what you really want in life, you can kind of connect to yourself and your purpose a little better. But there are different ways to connect to yourself. Sometimes it's just like picking up or going back to a creative hobby that you used to love, you know, being in nature, being with yourself in a positive way, right? Not like ruminating on the wall, looking at the wall, staring and thinking about how your life sucks. No, or your problems, right? But maybe going for a walk, going to the forest. If you live by the ocean and it's not freezing winter, going for a dip. Although it is winter in a lot of places right now. People who are watching this, I know, I've been there. Right now, as you can tell by the tank top, I am in a warm winter environment. Yeah, so I'm babbling a little bit, but basically what I'm saying is that, so identify the pattern, identify how are you meeting those needs in a negative way, and also write down how could I meet those needs in a more positive way. And this, my friends, is going to be a turning point. Once you identify that, you have the opportunity to practice and journal practice, be like a little scientist, experiment. Be like, okay, I'm going to try to do this. And then maybe that didn't work so well. Maybe I can do this. Track it, monitor it, right? How did you do, right? Course correct. It's not just like one and done. This is life. It's a work in progress. But if you start to do that, right, then you can stop emotional looping in. And when we talk about stopping emotional looping, we're talking about the loops we don't want. We're not talking about looping in joy and happiness, right? If you're doing that, just keep doing that. You don't need this. But if you're looping in so-called negative states, low energy states of sadness, anger, even though anger can seem like a high energy state, it's really draining, you know, or blame or victimhood, you know, then give this a shot, okay? And if you'd like to hear more about the Healing Circle, if you're not in there, then just DM me for healing or any of the tools. They're going to be all posted in the community if you're in the community, so no worries. But if you would like special access, just message me and I'm happy to help, okay? So have a good Saturday and take care of yourself. Remember, we all deserve to wake up with passion, to live with purpose, and to sleep with peace.